A cruise ship adrift in shark-infested waters. A bucket of chum dumped into the water attracts a frenzy of sharks. Incredibly, the couple voluntarily enters a shark cage to interact closely with these predators underwater. Some folks just push their luck. The couple surfaces after their exhilarating shark encounter, just as the boat captain suddenly brandishes a knife. The boyfriend dies instantly. The woman suffers a worse fate. The scene shifts to the beach. Here comes Ellie, a spirited athlete who loves freedom. On the beach that day, she met a handsome man named Jason. They share a perfect evening together. Before daybreak, Ellie slipped away unnoticed. To her, love was like fleeting waves that never lingered for anyone. The empty beach saw Ellie prepping for her on surf. A man named Mark suddenly emerged, approaching her with unsettling fervent greetings, dismissing him as another pickup artist. Ellie checked Jason's text only to have a bag shoved over her head. Ellie fought wildly for half a minute before blacking out. Concerned she might wake up, Mark quickly retrieved a syringe from his pocket. Bound and unconscious after the struggle, Ellie was dragged by Mark onto a cruise ship after a long journey. Ellie woke up groggily after some time. Her mouth was sealed with tape, her left hand cuffed to a metal bed frame, while the shark-dancing girl from earlier lay restrained on the adjacent bunk. Despair filled her eyes. Trapped in the middle of the ocean, escape seemed impossible. Ellie was used to danger and never gave up easily. She struggled with the cuffs and noticed names of other girls carved on the wall. Ellie realized she wasn't his first victim. She took a deep breath to calm herself, then turned and noticed Anna's swimsuit nearby. A spark of hope flared in Ellie. She signaled Anna to toss the clothes, pulled out the wire, and was working on the cuffs when the door burst open. They scrambled to hide the wire under the sheet. Mark the captor came with their food. The two girls quickly drank the beverages to hasten his departure. They were too afraid to dwell on why Mark was suddenly being so kind. As soon as he left, Ellie resumed picking the handcuffs with the wire. Before long, a wave of intense dizziness hit them, and in a slump weakly onto the bed. Ellie realized their drinks were drugged. Mark crept in with a lewd smirk, spotting the wire Ellie was hiding, his smile turning cold and cruel. Ellie regained consciousness only to discover she was bound to a deck chair. The ship lights flared up. Mark positioned the camera, eager for the show to start. Before long, fins began slapping the water's surface nearby. Mark drew close to Anna, slicing off a lock of her hair with his knife. Anna was clearly this twisted show star. Ellie sensed impending doom. Mark moved to the controls and hit a switch, lifting Anna off the deck as the crane swung her slowly over the turbulent waters below. Anna's piercing scream broke the ocean's calm. The chum had lured a swarm of sharks below. Mark pressed the button again and Anna slowly descended into the sea. She adjusted the camera swiftly, eager to film the shark's feeding frenzy. Every gruesome frame would be added to his twisted collection. Back in the cabin, Mark stored Anna's lock of hair with the tape in his cabinet. Dozens of identical tapes stood in neat rows inside. Each tape marked another life extinguished. Forced back into the room, Ellie knew she'd meet Anna's fate. She strained against the cuffs, but they held fast. At lunchtime, Mark brought her meager rations. She said lively prey is more entertaining as shark food. Ellie shouted angrily at Mark, but his distorted personality made him completely immune to her insults. After Mark calmly left, Ellie noticed the plastic bucket at her feet for convenience. A brilliant idea hit her. The broken handle left a sharp edge that could serve as a lethal weapon. Mark ate his meal while admiring his gruesome collection. Darkly anticipating, prepared the sedative in the kitchen, ready for Ellie's demise tonight. Seeing her victim unconscious, she grabbed the syringe but Ellie suddenly lunged, stabbing her with the broken handle. Mark cried out and collapsed. Ellie snatched the keys from her waist to free herself, but as she went for the boat keys, Mark started moving. Ellie dashed from the cabin, yet the needle still struck her leg. After kicking Mark aside, she raced to the control room for the radio then spotted a yacht in the distance. She rushed to the deck and screamed for help.
Help!
But Mark pursued her relentlessly, closing in with a gleaming knife in his grasp. Ellie stepped back in fear. She tried to use the camera as a weapon, but Mark guarded it fiercely. Ellie hurled the camera into the ocean. The drugs in her body started working then. The freezing water did nothing to clear her head. Dazed and confused, she felt a sudden grip on her arm. Who really was back on that rusty iron bed? Mark had already moored the boat ashore. She headed to buy a new camera. Without it, the shark footage would be worthless. Meanwhile, Jason, worried by Ellie's silence, came to the beach at dawn to look for her. He found only her empty camper van, and her phone kept ringing. Jason first thought she'd gone surfing, but after searching, he found only her surfboard. She sensed something was wrong and rushed to the police. They scoured the coastline, but Ellie had completely disappeared. Jason carefully reviewed the beach surveillance footage and noticed a charter service pickup truck parked near Ellie's van at the time. He tried calling the number on the ad but got no response. Feeling suspicious, Jason headed to the dock and immediately noticed Mark's charter boat anchored there. Jason quickly boarded the boat to search and heard faint cries for help from below deck as he passed by. Jason felt a surge of hope. Jason smashed the lock and rushed downstairs, finally discovering Ellie handcuffed in the basement. Ellie was stunned to see Jason, her boyfriend of just one day, come to her rescue. She told Jason to find tools to unlock the cuffs, but Mark came back with a camera instead. Seeing Jason calling the cops, he dashed forward and brutally punched into the ground, then ruthlessly smashed his phone to pieces. Panicked, Jason stumbled back and hurled the camera at Mark. With Mark down, he lunged forward and choked him. As Mark neared unconsciousness, Jason was struck from behind. The dock manager had come to help. He mistook Jason for an intruder, unaware Mark was the real villain. The manager paid for his mistake with his life. Ellie's hope was utterly shattered the moment Jason collapsed. Both were tied to a rusty iron bed. Even as death loomed, Jason confessed his love to Ellie. That night they met was the happiest moment of his life, but their tender moment was brutally cut short by Mark. He bound Jason to the deck, ready to feed him to sharks once more. Several sharks were circling below. To Mark's bewilderment, the sharks seemed utterly indifferent to the handsome man, merely lingering lazily in the bloody waters. Furious, Mark yanked Jason back and plunged a knife repeatedly into his gut. Blood spread across the deck, driving the sharks into a frenzy. But as Jason was about to hit the water, Mark abruptly stopped the recording. The sudden appearance of a patrol helicopter forced him to halt the filming and lock the two back in the cabin. Staring at Jason's ghostly pale face on the next bed, Ellie made a desperate decision to break her thumb and slip free from the handcuffs. Clenching her teeth, she felt sharp pain all over. Despite multiple attempts, the handcuffs wouldn't budge. As evening fell, Mark walked in carrying a tray of food. Ellie endured the pain quietly while facing her mockery.
Tonight's show is gonna be fucking...
The moment Mark left, Ellie's face twisted in pain. She knew her time was nearly up. With shaking hands, she forced her thumb between her teeth. Night fell as Mark entered the cabin and found half a finger on the bed. Ellie sprang from behind the door, slamming it shut on Mark. Staggering into the control room to restart the engine, she barely had time to react before Mark smashed through a cabin window and cut off the power supply. Darkness descended. Through the window, Ellie spotted distant party lights twinkling on shore. She scrambled to find a flare, but Mark was already closing in. Ellie fired a flare and bolted from the control room, locking Mark inside. Ellie shattered the glass to flee, but Mark kicked the door open and dragged her down. Fighting for her life, Ellie grabbed a kitchen knife and drove it deep into Mark's arm. Ellie burst from the cabin and plunged into the darkness below. She swam desperately toward the shore party. Barely crawling ashore through the pain, Ellie heard Mark's speedboat roaring toward her. His massive hand clamped over Ellie's mouth, silencing her completely. Ellie's escape attempt failed. Mark dragged her back to the tour boat. She woke up to find herself suspended in mid-air with Jason watching the horror unfold. Mark was ready to eliminate troublesome Ellie first. Like a meticulous director, he narrated the shark's hunting process to Jason. The mechanism activated, lowering Ellie into the water. A giant shark, drawn by the blood, circled below. Mark eagerly positioned the camera, not wanting to miss a second. To everyone's shock, the shark completely ignored Ellie in the water. Furious, Mark swung the harpoon but lost it in the chaos. Ellie took the weapon to defend. Ellie spotted her golden opportunity to flee as the shark descended into the depths. She hooked the rope with the harpoon and pulled herself up. Mark's excitement grew at the sight. He relished capturing prey's futile struggle to escape. Exhausted, Ellie fell back into the water, the rope slipping from her hand. As the massive shark approached, she held her breath, covering her wound. Miraculously, the giant shark hesitated for a moment before letting her go. On board, Mark wondered why there was no blood in the water. Ellie silently climbed onto the stern. Like an avenger from hell, she shot Mark squarely in the chest with the harpoon gun. The force hurled him into the sea. The blood in the water drew a shark instantly. Before he could scream, the beast propelled him skyward. The deck camera perfectly captured this moment, marking a fitting end to Mark's twisted career as a cameraman. Just as they thought it was over, the harpoon line snapped taut, yanking Ellie into the depths. Jason struggled in vain to save her. Ellie's terrifying strength let her break free from the ropes and climb back onto the deck. With shaking hands, she fired the flare. A yacht emerged on the horizon, their salvation. Ellie and Jason finally got rescued after all their hardships, and they learned to treasure each other more and less. This ends our tale of dangerous creatures. The show conveys a simple, clear message. Sharks appear dangerous yet pale against the darkness of human hearts. Truth is, sharks don't actually like eating humans. The woman in water was anti-eaten, as sharks avoid humans. No one's gonna call this unrealistic, right? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. See you next time.